Hello and welcome to Music Works, a podcast by Polyphony Arts. We're talking about the future of the classical music industry with some great guests. Thank you for joining us. Hello and welcome to Music Works. I am, as always, Katie Beardsworth, and this week I have two guests from Rocket Opera. We have Lizzie Nicholson and Austin Gunn. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming
Hello.
on. Hello. Austin Gunn founded Rocket Opera, and Lizzie is their Rocket Opera Scholar this year, and they're here to talk to me about how Rocket Opera has been adapting to life in lockdown. So let's start with Austin. Can you tell us a bit about Rocket Opera, what you usually do, and what you've been up to over the last few months?
Yeah. We were originally created Rocket Opera, myself and three colleagues, back in 2012, and to create what was originally just to create work for the four of us in the region that we live in the Northeast, and it's just steadily grown from there, creating sort of bringing in. Each of the four members' own sort of contacts and things, and then it became sort of something that we wanted to pursue further. So we appointed an honorary president as well, which is Graham Danby, who's been very present with us as well during lockdown in a virtual way. Um, so we originally started with collaborations at the Sage Gateshead, and then branched out into providing soloists for oratorio as well, for choral societies. Started in the Northeast, and it sort of spread now to not just the UK, but providing singers for performances outside of the UK as well, and casting or helping cast for other opera companies that visit the region as well. We have most professional opera singers who live in the region are on our sort of database, on our books, I suppose is the way you would call it. I mean, in recent years, we developed new collaborations with other companies locally, the William Shield Festival, and it's been an exciting few years. We created in 2014 with the Maltings Theatre in Berwick, Berwick Festival Opera, and we're a co-producer still for that. We've done 10 operas so far since 2014 in
Wow.
Berwick, and it's that's the gist of what we do as performers. And then we also organize and deliver workshops and masterclasses for performers, both amateur and professional. And we try to do at least one or two a year. And on top of all that, we are also the entertainment providers for Coluccio's restaurant in Newcastle, um, for the opera nights there, when there was a Coluccio's in Newcastle pre-COVID. Now there won't be one there anymore, unfortunately.
It's a
Um,
shame.
so that's what we've been up to since 2012, steadily growing and getting providing opportunities, providing a platform in real life for artists locally, and also artists to come up um, and work locally in the region with our local artists too. We have conductors both within the region and beyond the region who work with us, and coaches, and it's been an exciting 8 years so far.
Great. And then to move on to 2020, tell us about what you've been doing since lockdown.
Yeah, when lockdown started, I very quickly decided that we needed, as the major sort of provider of performance experience for professionals, amateurs in the region, that we needed to provide something for artists to do and to keep creating. And quite jokingly, I decided that we should have a performance platform and call it Online Classical Karaoke. Um, Purely because so many singers were attempting to sing with backing tracks in the same way that we would do if we were in the pub on the karaoke machine. Um, and varying degrees of success to start with, which has got better as the pandemic has gone on. In the end, it started out very well. People started to experiment a little bit more with distance performance, sharing performances with people who weren't in the same town as them, and then now we've got to the point where we're having pianists come in and accompany whole scenes from operas. We also fortnightly decided, because it was very good for each individual person to bring something to sing with a backing track. We wanted to do something fortnightly where artists could actually perform a piece together. So we started the opera sing-throughs, and they became, it was hilarious, the first few, in that a lot of us were living on our, what was absolutely fine at the time before COVID, cheap broadband and slightly dodgy internet connections, which of course nobody has now, so we decided that it was going so well, that we were all enjoying sort of just sharing, making an opera together or singing through an opera together, even though there was clearly from my end where I was sharing the accompaniment with all the artists. I got to hear every single person's delay. Some were, I think the record was 6 seconds, where one artist finished, and then 6 seconds later another artist finished the same piece.
Oh, good
and
grief.
It's it was a great way, and this is why we decided also that we didn't want a general audience. We wanted an audience of artists, people who just wanted to keep creating rather than just consume. Which was, it was a difficult decision, because we all live for the performance. We all have that as part of our everyday life in real life, is that we need an audience to do what we do. But I wanted to just provide a safe space for performers to get used to the technology, to get used to just still creating without the stress of having to deliver to a paying public a finished product. It's going very well. We've grown immensely since the early days of. We did a couple of Gilbert and Sullivan operas to get going, and then we developed into Handel and Mozart. We've just had a Halloween special where we did scenes from Der Vampire, and a range of other things as well, Lucia, and some Benjamin Britten, and so it's been a really good opportunity to keep artists making something, purely for the reason of making something, and never with the intention of it being a product that we sell on to somebody else. Since we started, a few of the artists who've been involved have set up their own very, very similar platforms. There's one now run in Gibraltar with one of our attending artists. And there's a new company that's sprung up that is doing occasional performance platforms on a similar vein as well. It was started by one of our attendees. It's the colleagues that have come through. We have artists who are regular at the Royal Opera House, English National Opera, Scottish Opera, Opera North. We have artists from Israeli National Opera. We have artists from New England, from New York, logging in from Germany, from Switzerland. It's Portugal as well, and so it's been and Tel Aviv. It's been a really sort of exciting thing to see the way that the artists sort of share with each other making performances. I think one week we had a duet between New York and Morpeth in the northeast here, which was fabulous. We had a Bach duet between Leeds and Peter Lee. which are, I think, 60 or 70 miles apart. We had a Peter Grimes scene accompanied from distance from the piano. We've had violinists check in. There was one week we were doing magic flute, and for some reason, all of the artists who happened to have a spare instrument decided to start playing along the orchestral sections as well. Which I had to stop very quickly because of having children asleep upstairs. So that's the basic gist. So we have a lot of fun. We keep creating. We're pushing ourselves to do more and more collaboration within Zoom, which is the platform we use. We also are able to sort of help a little bit because of being on there so long, to help artists who aren't used to Zoom to get sort of their tech ready and set up, get the enhanced settings off so we hear original sound, and sort of suggest ways of doing things. And for most of the artists, obviously, it's the first time they've performed this way. It's the first time they've performed a duet or been accompanied from distance, and it's been a really it's been a messy at times, but always interesting, always worth doing. And the mess has become less messy as the months have passed. And we've been doing this since, I can't remember the date we started. I think we're on 29th week now. And so we've been doing it for a very long time. And we clearly, with the lockdown starting again tomorrow, we'll be doing it for at least another month. I'm expecting that we'll be doing it probably at least another 6 months, just until artists are able to fully explore doing the similar thing in real life again. Lizzie's been to, I'm pointing at Lizzie, there she is. Lizzie's been to every single one of our sessions, and this is before she was our Rocket Opera scholar. She was attended every single one of our Thursday night open performance platforms and every single one of our opera sing-throughs. Do you want to say what it's meant to you, Lizzie?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I attended literally every single one, and I intend to carry on doing so. And for me, it's been, I feel like as performers, we need to perform, which may sound really stupid and self-explanatory, but it's true. Like, you don't really know how much you miss something until it's kind of taken away. So just to kind of have that normal, it has become a normality now, but kind of to have that kind of taste of normality again every week was just so, it was so well received. And I've since started, I've actually gone on now, and I'm now studying my master's in London, and with these performance classes that I'm doing, they're all online. And I'm now a bit of a dab hand when it comes to, oh yeah, I can do that, that's not a problem. You know, I can set up Zoom, I can do that. So from a practical point of view, it's obviously coming so handy. But yeah, just from a, it's been so valuable just to have that kind of safe space and to create new friendships and new colleagues. And especially as a young artist, that's, you know, in a time like this, young artists aren't able to go and make them network connections anymore. So it's been a real opportunity to do that. And I've loved it. It's been, yeah, I can't really express how much I've loved it.
It's absolutely wonderful. And I've been to some of the sessions too, and not as many as I'd have liked to, mainly due to large issues getting lockdown children to go to sleep at any kind of reasonable hour. And the thing that, you know, strikes me about it, which you've already said, is two things really. One is that, I mean, it's just all about doing what you can do rather than what you can't do. And so much of life at the moment, especially for musicians, is all about what you can't do. And I think it's really wonderful to have something that just says, you know, we all know what it is. We all know it's not perfect. But we just, in a way, we suspend that completely, and it just happens, and it's really wonderful. And you're right, Lizzie. Performers do need to perform, and it's not just that they need to earn money, which they do, of course, but they don't. Being out of work for someone who's an artist isn't just about not earning money. It's about keeping a craft up and having all of the things that craft gives you. The sharing and the kind of connections with people, with audiences, with other artists. I think it's just been such an important thing for people to do. and it's so I've been wanting to do a podcast episode about this for ages, in part because it's something that I literally, Austin told me he was doing it and I said, really? What? Really? And then I came to the first one and I was like, oh, really? Because this is a bit, hard to kind of follow. And then I stayed for a bit longer and then went again, and suddenly just it totally, any kind of reservations about the sound that comes out of Zoom were completely replaced by just seeing all these people doing something together and carrying on creating music. And it just felt as though, like, after kind of the first few minutes, that just wasn't even a thing anymore, and it was just all about this community of singers, and the networking opportunities as well, as you say. Being able to connect with people across the world. This is one of the things that I think will stay. I don't know if you agree, but as we hopefully move out of lockdown and into being able to do more in-person performance and working together again in spaces, I feel as though it would be a shame to lose the scope for international collaboration that doing things over the internet provides. What do you think, Lizzie?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just gonna slide in there. No, you're absolutely right. And back to what you said earlier about, it's a very unique platform, and I think obviously with that there's like natural disadvantages being online, but I think there's certain unique advantages that you don't even get in person. Like this is like a space where you can just take risks and with absolutely zero consequence, and it is the most supportive environment you can hope for, and I hope that it continues for a long time, even post 2020 madness. It would be nice to kind of carry on having a community like this. I think it's really beneficial.
Absolutely. So Lizzie, tell us more about your role as a rocket opera scholar.
Yeah, it sounds so fancy, doesn't it? I love it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, like? No. Not a Geordie. But no, as a rocket opera scholar, I think Austin and I were discussing this earlier. We described it as like an artist development program, which sounds even fancier. But it's kind of a role for me where I get all the support that I could ask for from Austin and also Heather. And so I'm constantly learning. I get to take advantage of all the masterclasses that Austin provides with rocket opera as well, which is incredible. But on top of that, like, I give back kind of support maybe online, so social media, making sure that rocket opera has quite a large online presence. I think it's really important that this kind of platform reaches the masses. It reaches as many people as possible, because it would be horrible to think that there's other singers out there who aren't, who are maybe suffering, maybe aren't as happy as they could be, who could really benefit from this. So I think that would be my main role, is kind of promoting it and making sure as many people as possible hear about rocket opera.
Oh, lovely. And tell us more about, in particular, more about you yourself. You just graduated, is that right? And just started your master's.
That's right. So
where are you
I graduated. I graduated from the University of Leeds back in. I say back. It feels like ages ago now, but it was literally a few months ago. But 2020 has been no words needed, I think. But it's been a long year. But so I finished my undergraduate this year, and I've just moved to London. So I'm now at Trinity Lab and Conservatoire of Music and Dance. I'm doing my master's here. So it's been a mad year. It really has. But no, I think a big part of my studying, I do obviously first study singer, so I'm soprano, studying mainly in opera. But on top of that, I do a lot of music education on the side. I'm a big advocate for music education. It's so important, especially kind of inclusivity in music education. Is kind of that's my thing. That's what I'm most interested in.
Absolutely, me too. Very much a hot topic on this podcast, and in many other places as well. And this is something you're an expert in, isn't it? Because you wrote your undergraduate dissertation on music education and deprivation. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, expert.
Yeah. Expert view, please, on.
I I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't usually blow my own trumpet by any stretch of the imagination, even for a soprano. But but there isn't actually a lot of research on the topic I did, so I do feel like there's a lot more work still to be done on it. But it was nice to kind of it was nice to kind of investigate it. So my topic was, how can educators provide equal opportunity for their young musicians from economically deprived areas, which is just a very fancy long way of saying how can we kind of reduce the gap between the rich and the poor in the classical music industry, which is something that should be talked about more often. I think money is quite a taboo topic, especially in the UK, where
Yes.
just the word money and income, everyone goes, oh no, no. But from someone, I mean, I come from quite a modest area. I come from it is a socially economically deprived area, and there's not a lot of music creativity there at all. So like, I mean, my school, I think there was a choir. We didn't do any school shows. We did concerts, but you know, there was hardly an orchestra. I think the orchestra had died after about 3 years of me being there. So it was, when I went to university, that was kind of my first taste of, oh my God, this is what it's like. This is, and that's when I met Austin. Yeah, so that was kind of my start of my musical journey. So that was my main inspiration behind it. But it was such an interesting topic, like discovering why people went and studied higher education in music, and it really links back to these performance platforms, because I think unsurprisingly, I had about 100 participants, and 93% of them, off the top of my head, had private tuition, which I kind of knew would be the case, and that didn't surprise me. And obviously that's quite expensive, and that's the main cause for that gap. But yeah, what really surprised me was the fact that pretty much, I think it was all but one participant said that their extracurricular activities were the ones that really inspired them and really helped them the most to kind of want to become professional musicians. And I actually wrote down a quote that really I was reading it again to kind of jog my memory, and the best one was the reason they loved their extracurricular is because they didn't feel judged, and they didn't care about a grade. They weren't working towards anything. It was just a space for them to grow and kind of discover who they were as a musician. So obviously linking back to the platforms, there's substantial research behind why these kind of environments are so beneficial, especially to young musicians who are really impressionable.
Absolutely. Gosh, that's really strong, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you've done research into that area.
Yeah.
It's very, very important, and the impact of kind of our musicians and the people in our music industry being of a certain economic background kind of goes right through the industry,
Yeah.
I think. So, you know, obviously fitting in as a musician, or feeling as though you're fitting in as a musician, that all come, you know, if you don't feel like you're part of that world in childhood, then it's very difficult to feel like you're part of that world in adulthood or in your professional work.
Yeah, it's absolutely constantly feeling like something to prove, even more so. But yeah,
exactly. And then the problem is that the people who don't feel like that rise higher, and then they end up in charge of everything, and then it doesn't filter down. Something that I'm really, really passionate about is filtering diversity and inclusivity all the way
down. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. But that's the good thing about these sessions, the fact that they're online, and you know, at the moment they're free. That's absolutely open to anybody, regardless of, I mean, we have like amateurs all the way to professionals, and all, you know, so it's really anyone can join and learn from it. So it's such a good environment.
It's such a good platform for that, and it's such I think it's such a kind of leveler as well, in a sense that you know, amateurs and professionals alike, if one was to draw a line between the two, they have the same need for this platform.
Exactly.
And you know,
100%.
for this to carry on. What's your take on this, Austin?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things, sort of being from a background where no one in my family was involved in music making to any professional level at all, only in sort of entertainment groups, not even up to like even operatic societies, things like that. But we being brought up sort of in a church community kind of was the only way of getting sort of a musical education that would sort of get you ready for doing well in music exams. And it was the church that paid for my singing lessons when I was a young boy as well. And so it is, and to see now that churches don't have the provision to provide environments for young singers anymore at that level in particular, and to see the lack of opportunities for young people to experiment with classical music is really difficult. And I try and do as much as I can. I work for I've done 3 years with English National Opera, going into schools and taking workshops and performances into schools and getting young people engaged in creating work for themselves, as well as being consumers of work, because it's also we need audiences in future as well. We can't just all be the perform. We can't all be on stage and have no one in the audience. We have to swap over occasionally, and so it's to see all of the projects that are now happening in schools that are popping up and are happening in the region here is wonderful. The Royal Opera House has an outreach program that visits schools in the northeast. We English National Opera went to Blackpool for the first time to do workshops. We do with Rocket Opera. We did some workshops in communities as well for community singers, which includes children as well. And it seems to be the only way you can reach people now, because there isn't the everyday things that happened when hundreds of years ago when I was at school, where there was a school choir. Even schools, even small schools, had choirs back then, and so you were always exposed to it. You didn't just learn about it; you were part of it. And I think that's the thing that we need to make sure happens, and that's why I think doing it online seems to be, a lot of us might complain about the quality of the sound online, things like that. But as long as we're making something, as long as we're creating, then there is something to be to allow young people to engage, to allow non-professionals to engage with it, and professionals to make something together, to be proud of the work rather than just the end result, because that's what I'm all about, process. And it's through the process that we have everything that we have in performance. And the most interesting people to work with are the people who are working on the ground with young people, with community musicians, because they're bringing the most relevant arts to the profession. We can't just keep performing the Marriage of Figaro and wondering why people aren't engaging with the characters and the story. We have to make opera in particular that people can associate with, people can engage with, and nothing against Marriage of Figaro, but it's creating things that talk about things that happen in everybody's lives, that talk about the relationships that we have, and talk about the things that go wrong in our lives and the things that go well in our lives. And it's very different nowadays to a lot of our standard operatic fare. And that's why I think we if we keep creating, then we're always going to have new operas to perform, and new audiences to entertain and to challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because obviously operas are, the operas that are regularly performed are historical, and they are pieces of history, and obviously they have an artistic value in themselves as a piece of history, and they also can be reframed, and some not adaptations, but productions that reframe in a kind of modern context can be incredibly powerful, particularly when it feels as though this kind of timeless story is being told in various contexts. But I mean, I agree completely that this is a living art form, and it has to be, it's participatory in its very essence, and it's also tons of fun. And I think that gets lost in some of the ways it's portrayed as a kind of historical piece of art, with such levels of formality. And it takes a lot of really intensive, expensive, all-consuming training to become an opera singer or any kind of professional in opera, but that doesn't have to mean you don't have to undergo those things to be part of it necessarily, I don't believe. So it's I did hear someone say recently that they wanted to bring the fun back into opera, and I think that's what rocket opera really does. And that's, again, to come back to the karaoke, and to your attitude, from what I've seen of your performances that you do when you do them in person, and the way they're framed in terms of having a combination of established and up and coming singers in them, and so on and so forth. There's a real joy about the way all of that works. That is even then is also about community and livening up the art form, I suppose.
Yeah, I think every single cast we've had, somebody's been making their professional debut. We've either had a young artist who's never been in a professional cast before, or a community artist who's making their first steps into professional opera singing. I think our oldest professional debut was a lady in her late 50s, early 60s, which is wonderful. And it's to be able to take people who have maybe retired from their daytime job and give them a whole new career at the end of it as an operatic performer. Is wonderful, and to be able to sort of open doors for young people to not just explore opera, but to actually start to think of it as something they can make for themselves, a career for themselves in making opera, in creating stories, in creating characters, and exploring relationships through characters. And it's I know I have pretty standard stuff on my wall behind me, but a lot of my career has been in new music and new stories, and I love working on works that nobody's performed before. I love being the first person to make something new, and it's why I think this is the chance we have with COVID-19 as well, we have these new platforms, and rather than wait and see, it is nice to sort of see what we can do with them. We had an artist one week perform the letter scene from Onegin. I don't know if you remember, Lizzie, she used the chat function as the letter writing, and so we all got to see her writing the letter at the same time. It was absolutely instinctive on her part, but it was so engaging.
It was incredible,
to be
and it was aimed at me as well.
Yes, it was. It was to you, the letter.
I was very flattered. Unfortunately, I had to turn it down, but
Oh, how wonderful! Well, it's been really, really great to hear about this. I find this such an inspirational kind of thing to be doing week in, week out. During lockdown or partial lockdown or wherever we end up being at any point, or no lockdown at all, perhaps. And so thank you for coming and talking to me about it. Could you, each of you, do tell me if you've got anything else that you'd like to plug? And Austin, also, could you just say how people can find the karaoke if they would like to?
Yeah, best thing to do is if they engage with us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and we can send. We keep the Zoom room code private, just so that we don't have and people who aren't related to it coming in. So, but if you want to join us to come to the session, we have a room code and a waiting room, and you will be let in. But it's good to know if you're coming in advance, so that we know who to look out for. So, best thing to do is engage with us on social media, on Twitter. It's Rocket Opera, Rocket_Opera. I think. And on Facebook, if you look for us on there, or if you on our website rocketopera.weebly.com, you'll find an email address there. So just drop us a line, a message, an email, and we'll reply to you with the Zoom code. And we look forward to seeing many new artists join us on our Thursday night platforms and our fortnightly Tuesdays. And anyone can come, any artist, a professional artist, an international artist. We have a few of those coming. We have very, very well-known conductors joining us sometimes as well. And we have professional national opera artists from other countries. And we have people who have only performed in local soirees organized by their teacher or in their own church choirs, things like that. So, and we all perform alongside each other. I think was it yesterday, on Tuesday this week, we went from Grimsby to New England to Tel Aviv, and then back to another artist in Grimsby. And I think that's kind of what we're about, is we can have you come from anywhere. And I'm not making a joke about Grimsby. I was born in Cleethorpes myself, but it's really great to have that sort of that sharing from one country to another, from an amateur to a professional, all sharing the platform together, all sharing the difficulties of not being able to perform in real life, but sharing what we can do with each other, making something happen together. So get in touch.
Absolutely. And Lizzie, tell us how we can hear your work.
Yeah, so I'm currently in the process of recording some opera scenes at Trinity Laban. So if you keep an eye out on Trinity Laban's social media, you can figure that out. I'm currently playing Hero in Berlioz's Beatrice and Benedict, which is exciting. So this is my debut with that one. Apart from that, just my own personal social media, which is Lizzie Lizzie .Nico. I think it's .Nico. Lizzie.Nico. We can always find it out. I should know this, shouldn't I? Lizzie.Nico _ SOP. So that's my personal social media. I do lots of videos. I do online stuff as well. So like where we paste like other singers together and do duets and stuff like that. So it's always fun. I always have something fun to say. So feel free to give us a follow.
You're also, can I just make, you're also a member of Leeds Youth Opera, aren't you still?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, and they have some exciting projects going on at the moment.
They do.
So yeah. So if people can see what you're up to there, maybe get involved with that themselves as well at some point. It'd be great to what are they doing?
At the moment, I think it's been announced. I shouldn't get told off for saying this. They're doing an online version of the Magic Flute. If I do get told off to say it, you'll have to cut this out. But
it's all right. This won't get released for a couple of weeks, so you know.
Oh, it'll be fine. So yeah, they're doing an online version of the Magic Flute. It's with a twist though, because it's online. I won't give away too much, but it's going to be very exciting. So that's Leeds Youth Opera's new project, and that's I think between. Is it 13 and 25? I could be wrong there. 12 and 25?
Something like that, yes.
And if you're between those kind of ages, it would be great to also hear from you and get in touch because it's online as well. It's open to everyone.
Lovely. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. It's been great.
Thank you then. Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening today. To find out what we're up to, do join our mailing list or follow us on social media. And if you'd like to support the podcast by buying me a coffee, you can do that on buymeacoffee.com. Thank you so much. See you next time.